program, we share solutions to real-life problems with real people, showing how faith guides everyone through the storms of life. We talk about tough issues that affect all generations. Our conversations help you learn, grow, and lead. Help us continue with this great work by partnering with us today. Call 905-625-1278, extension 233, or visit letstalkca.org. We look forward to your partnership with us to change lives. Let's Talk, revealing the heart of Christ through engaging media conversations.
Sometimes you walk through life alone, wondering if anyone understands what you are going through, hoping someone will listen and offer a word to make your day. The Church of God of Prophecy offers unconditional love and support, regardless of what you are going through. Visit cogop.ca for a location near you. The Church of God of Prophecy, developing authentic disciples of Christ.
Good evening and welcome to another segment of Let's Talk. I'm your host, Woodroe Thompson, and we're glad that you join us this evening. My guest is a renowned expert, speaker, and facilitator on topics around masculinity. He has spoken to thousands of people across North America and has delivered 2 TEDx talks on subjects related to the construction of gender, helpful versus harmful ideas of race, manhood, and masculinity, empathy building, and men helping end gender-based violence. He started Higher Unlearning as an online space to share his written pieces, videos, and TEDx talk. My guest this evening is Jeff Perera. Good to have you with us, Jeff.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be sharing some space with you all.
Well, it's an honor to share this space with you as well. Now, as I look at your bio and look at some of the work that you've done, the first thing that comes to mind is, how did you get started on this path of healthy masculinity? What is it that caused you to see that this was something that was needed?
Well, for me, growing up, my parents got together through an arranged marriage in Sri Lanka, and they moved to England, and they came to Canada in the early 70s. And, some of my earliest memories is my mother covered in bruises at the hands of my father. So at that early age, I witnessed domestic violence and violence in the home. And, for me, what that did is it kind of gave me 2 things. It tuned me into the reality of women and girls and what women are experiencing and navigating. But it also made me start thinking, why is my father doing this? And growing up, I grew up in a so-called priority neighborhood, the Jane Finch area. And so growing up with people from all around the world, I noticed that young men, what we had in common, were struggling with a lot of these things around anger and not opening up and talking and sharing our challenges. So for me as a young child, a young boy, that's processing it into teenage years. That got me on this journey of eventually professionally doing this work of reaching out to men and young men and trying to really engage us in conversations, which I'm still learning and trying to figure out. Like for me, it's like, join me in this conversation. I'm not here to lecture anyone. I'm here to kind of share in conversations and thinking about why is it we do what we do as men, and thinking about the men that we want to be, And I think of let me just say also, I think as men of faith, thinking about the kind of men we want to be, like if you were a follower of Christ, Christ's life was a roadmap for people. But, for men, it's, obviously an example of manhood. And we think of the kind of men of character that we want to be. And, the words in the gospel kind of give you this guidance of this is what it can look like, and not just, he's obviously, Jesus Christ was the Son of God, but as children of God, as men who are striving to be of character, thinking about how we show up in everyday moments. These are the conversations that I I hope to encourage with continue to encourage with men and young men.
So, based on the experience that you've had, what would you say it means to be a man today, or better yet, how do we define masculinity?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like it's funny because like I'm labeled a masculinity expert, but I don't think my role is to kind of tell anyone this is what it is and what it isn't.
Right,
I
right,
think we all have our kind of relationship with the type of man, the type of young man we want to be, aspire to be. You know, what I would say is I think the world we live in tells you from an early age, because it doesn't matter as parents what you do, you can only do so much because the message is coming from media, from film, from the neighborhood, from the community, from the field that you want to, if you want to be, in professional sports, if you want to be in the business world or whatever, the messages we see is that the measure of being a man is what I can demonstrate, what I own, or what I produce. So you're measured by, how strong you are, how much money you
right.
make,
Hmm.
the clothes you wear, the car you drive, that
Right,
I can handle any problem that comes my way, and if you're my partner, my wife, like I can handle any problems that come our way. Like I'm the protector, I'm the solution, I'm not the problem. And
right.
that's the the thing we aspire to. And it's an impossible goal to be all these things, to be perfect, like to be all the things.
Right,
Um, so for me, like a big part of this is recognizing that, again, it's for me, it's an idea of humility. It's an idea of how I can be in service of others. So for me,
right.
the measure of
Hmm.
a man is not what we demonstrate, own, or produce. Like for me, the measure of a man is how we serve, how we give, and how we
Right,
live. And it's not weakness to say I'm in service of others. Like that's strength. That is
right,
a beautiful, powerful thing, and to me, that is manhood. Is that the strength I have is for helping. It's for helping my family, helping my children, sons and daughters, helping friends in the community, places we worship, live, study, play, hang out. Like how we show up. To me, that's the measure of a man. And
right.
yeah, I think that's kind of what we want to share with others.
Right. But it's amazing from a young child. I think you and I were talking off camera. When you're growing up, for example, men were not meant to show emotion. So if as a young boy you slip and you fell, and let's say you bruise your knee, dad would say, "Come on, boy, get up, be a man." It's almost as if you shouldn't show any kind of sign of pain or even remorse. Or real men don't cry. We've heard that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's almost as if you're correct. This is what a man should be. He's
Hmm.
tough and he doesn't in any way admit to weakness or anything like that. That's what a man is supposed to be. And so we're
Absolutely.
bought into that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, just really quickly, just yeah, and the thing is, the people who kind of, whether it's if it's your father or people in society, that's what they were told. It's something that's
Right.
handed down.
Right.
So for me, it's like, what kind of traditions can we hand down? Like new traditions, like being a man is also about being caring. It's about being compassionate, empathetic, um, being helpful. I think is a big part of the conversation. It's all these other things too. Like it's this idea of strength, being someone that is dependable. You can rely on me. And we're also talking about this era that we're in, this time that we're in, and it's a time of such uncertainty. So I think the
Yes.
pressure is double fold for us as men to be like, I need to be the certainty. Like you look to me and I will be the one that will provide, that will lead us through, that will be the solution, and that's not always the case. Like we can't always be perfect. So what happens when we fall short
Right.
in our
Right.
personal lives, professional lives? You fall short with a goal. Nobody's perfect as a parent or as a child, as a son, or as a employee or a friend. So what happens, right? So that's part of it too.
Right. Right. Now, I like what you do. This is called higher and learning. I've heard about higher learning, but higher and unlearning. What is unlearning?
Yeah, it's a play on the phrase higher learning, right? Like higher unlearning means it means to kind of like these things that we talked about. There are
Right,
traditions that we've handed down that we've got to, reimagine these ideas of what we can be as men, because ultimately
right.
they limit us, but they also affect the people around us, the people we love, the
Hmm.
people we don't even know. It's not just the people you love, it's people you don't know that you interact with when you go to pick up a cup of coffee or you're at your work or what have you. So for me it's thinking about, it's, for example, like we're so focused on the impression we have on others as men. Like, I need to impress you. I need to show off, or I need to kind of demonstrate that you're like, rest assured, like I will handle this. But I think more than focusing on the impression we have on others, I think we can focus also on the impact we leave with others. Like, how do I
Right,
leave feeling about myself, about men, about the city or the country, about the place of worship that I attend. What's the impact I leave on people where they kind of go, wow, like I would love to know more about this person, or I want to be their friend. Like, I admire the way they handle that situation. And to me, those are the things that when we talk about unlearning,
right.
that's what it can be.
Now, I know we're speaking more about men and manhood and masculinity, but do you think that there's a difference between male and female, between men and women?
Yeah, like I think that we all again have different ideas around what that looks like. I think that
Right,
the way we raise
right,
women, for example, young girls, we will give them cook sets, we'll give them baby dolls, we'll give them gardening sets, so they learn to kind of nurture. So there's like a right from the get-go, there is a permission to be nurturing. So
right,
they're nurturing in their early stages of friendships, like how they play with one another, and they learn to take care. And so for me, there are certain things that we can discuss, like what is inherently as a woman or as a man. Here are the things that I am. But I think that what the challenge for me is like, but let's remember that if we're children of God, that God created us in His image, then there are things that we we can also be, right? So
right,
as a man,
mm,
I can also be nurturing. I can be a good
right.
father. I can
Sure.
be a
Hmm.
provider. I can be all those things. It's not exclusive. I think it's thinking about the kind of person you want to be, your calling, as far as, let's say, in a relationship. Here are the roles I want to play. Well, here are the roles that I want to play. This is how I want to
Right,
contribute. We discuss those things. And that plays out. But that doesn't mean that, as a man, I'm going to leave raising the kids completely to my wife, right, to the
right,
mother,
right. Of
because
course not.
if the arrangement is that I come home from work, I can be a father in those moments. In those moments, I might have missed out what happened at school. I missed out they're working on their homework, but I can also kind of contribute in other ways and talk about, like, well, how did things go, and I can be someone that they feel comfortable coming to and getting not just discipline, but reassurance, comfort, love, support. Those are things that I think are human. And
Yes, yes.
that's the thing is, for me, like, I want to focus on what men need to do and be. I think we, I would say in my role, like, I'm not here to kind of tell women what to do or not do.
Right,
For me, it's more, I'm not telling men either. It's just saying, as men, let's think about these things and how we can be supportive, contributing to environments where women can be the best version of themselves and men can be the best of themselves as well.
right. Um, some of us grew up in homes where, mom did the cooking,
Hmm.
mom would do the sewing, all that stuff was left up
Hmm.
to the woman. And you're correct. I remember growing up in a home where dad cooked as well. Dad
Yeah,
sewed, dad cleaned, dad did
yeah,
some of those things.
yeah,
Young couples getting married and thinking, okay, that's what my wife will do. And also thinking that's what my husband will do. Not
right.
realizing that we can share in those things as well.
Absolutely. And life is about compromise and about,
Right.
figuring things out like, okay, this is, the role I can play. But again, I think for men, if I program myself to think my value is in making more money than my partner or being
Sure.
the tough guy,
Yeah.
if I don't need to be the tough guy, if I don't need to make more money, then
Right.
that leaves me feeling insecure or inadequate. Like, what is my role? What is my identity? So I think it's
Right.
thinking about these things in a healthy way and saying, it's partnerships, not just like it's also at work, right? If you have a work colleague who's a partner in your business or you're part of a team, it's thinking about how I can contribute. It's not like I have to be the best. Individual goals like being at your best, absolutely. I think we can all agree that's a goal,
Right.
and through
Right.
faith and through personal development, you can be at your best. But it doesn't mean at the expense of others, or I have to be
Right.
best over other people.
Right.
So I think that's part of the growth that we can kind of support each other in.
Very good. Well, Jeff, we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to take a quick break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sometimes you walk through life alone, wondering if anyone understands what you are going through, hoping someone will listen and offer a word to make your day. The Church of God of Prophecy offers unconditional love and support, regardless of what you are going through. Visit cogop.ca for a location near you. The Church of God of Prophecy, developing authentic disciples of Christ.
On the Let's Talk television program, we share solutions to real-life problems with real people, showing how faith guides everyone through the storms of life. We talk about tough issues that affect all generations. Our conversations help you learn, grow, and lead. Help us continue with this great work by partnering with us today. Call 905-625-1278, extension 233, or visit letstalkca.org. We look forward to your partnership with us to change lives. Let's Talk, revealing the heart of Christ through engaging media conversations.
Welcome back to Let's Talk. My guest this evening is Jeff Perera, and we're talking about masculinity, but healthy masculinity. Jeff, it is sometimes said that there are three words that men are afraid to use, and when we use them, we don't use them well, and it's the words, I love you. Why is it that men get choked up in using those words? And I think it's easier to use those words with our wives or significant other, family members, but even with other men, we're afraid to say, hey, I love you, bro. What's up with that?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, especially, we talked about this a bit earlier too, before we went on air, that
Right,
I think we're learning to appreciate and value, not just things in life, but people in our lives. And so, for example, before we would see each other at work, and people would see each other at church or their place of worship
right. Hmm.
every Sunday. And that's not just a socializing thing, but it's also just it's reconnecting, it's grounding and centering with others, familiar faces, people we've known maybe a year, maybe 10 years, maybe longer, people that we love and we truly love. And, I think that brotherhood that we can have as men is something that we need to work on and nurture. We shouldn't take it for granted, but I
Right,
think the problem is, again, the way that society teaches us being a man is that being vulnerable, expressing emotion like love is weak. So if it's seen as being weak, it's seen as being less of a man.
right.
So I'm not telling everyone to go run around and tell the men in their lives, I love you every day. But it's beautiful to be able to just say, listen, you to express it, because unfortunately, a lot of times we don't say it until it's too late, or we wish we had said it, the things we wish we could say to each other, and I think one of the greatest examples is that when we lose a loved one or a famous, if you follow sports, you'll see men, like a famous sports athlete dies, the men who played with him, the men who admired him and his teammates or colleagues will say live on air, like, "I love you. I wish I had told you. I never
Right.
told you."
Right.
And it's
Hmm.
like, I think we need to do that every day. Like, it's part of creating the community and nurturing the community is not taking it for granted, and recognizing that expressing and sharing, and not just with words, it's also with deeds. Like, when I get you a cup of coffee, or I hold the door open for you, or I pat
Right.
you on the back, or just the way I embrace you with my energy, just like a big smile. It's great to see you this Sunday, or whatever it is. Like, that is saying I love you. And
Right.
that's not weak. To me, that's very manly, right? It's a beautiful thing, and it's
Right.
something that we all need. I think we all need to feel loved and supported, and that's what we find in fellowship with one another. So let's nurture that. We can, and that's by feeling comfortable to express it. And the thing is, when you model it, it might feel funny at first or awkward. It's not just necessarily saying those words, but just in the things that you do. Very quickly, people feel the permission and comfortable to also express and share. And it's amazing how it deepens the bond, deepens the connection,
Right.
and how
Right.
thankful you both are for deepening that brotherhood and connection with each other.
Right. And one of the things that we notice is because we're relational beings, men need deep connection, but somehow we're afraid to admit that need for connection, connectivity. And what we find is that some men are suffering in silence.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
because, we have to put up this front that I can handle life.
Hmm.
And so we find that even in church, we have men who are suffering in silence. How
Hmm.
do we help men to move beyond that, to realize it's okay to admit that you're not doing well? It's okay to admit that you'll fail. It's okay to admit these things. How do we help men embrace uh, that kind of posture in their lives?
It's so important. Like, this conversation is so important, I think, and for me, I think part of it is modeling it.
Okay,
Modeling it. So when,
right,
like, how's it going? How are you doing? Like, every time, like, we say it, and we don't, like, it's part of our greeting. Hi, how are you? How's it going? How are you doing? And you don't really expect people to open up. You just say, good, good. Oh, things are great. Things are good. It's what a world we live in, but everything's okay.
right,
Like, it's being able to say, like, I'm doing okay, but there's, I'm having some challenges, or this is happening, but I'm working on it, or I'm trying to get support on this issue, and there's a time and a place. I understand that, but I
right,
think that by
right,
modeling it, then other people feel permission to go, okay, well, I can. He's someone that maybe next time I can open up and say, hey, actually, I'm struggling with my kids, or work, or my me and my partner, we're having this issue, like,
right,
whatever it is, and I think that when we model it, then things open up. I think another thing we can do is, it's not about poking or prodding or pushing people, but it's just checking in, saying, hey, like, just how's it going, like,
right,
how are you
right,
really doing, like, everything is like, how is it going, like, and being invested in that, like, showing I care and wanting to hear the answer. Because I think sometimes what we do is, like, you might say, how's it going, and someone really tells you, and your body language is like, oh, I didn't really want to I don't really want to hear all this. And so I think it's investing in one another. I feel like this is a
right.
repeating message, but I think it's really at the heart of fellowship and brotherhood. It's like, it's really creating an environment where you both can be yourselves. If you are both in good health, then that's wonderful. If one of you is struggling with something emotionally, physically, financially, whatever it is, it's like, like, I would want to know. Like, I think the thing is, a lot of us as men, like, I would want to know if a brother in my life is struggling. I
Of
would feel
course.
horrible. Like,
Hmm.
I feel horrible you didn't feel comfortable coming to me. So part of that is just putting it out there.
Yeah, yeah,
Gently saying, hey, like, I'm here if anything ever, if you need this or that, you know, it's there's no perfect way, right? It's just, I think
yeah.
it's just a
Right.
continuing,
I,
way.
I, I love the idea of modeling it. And it's sad. You just mentioned something. It would be sad to know that a man in my life is suffering and I'm not aware of it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, is it that we men sometimes face a friendship crisis?
Mm,
Um, we don't really surround ourselves with friends that we can lean on. We don't talk about deep stuff. We talk about
yeah.
superficial stuff, the car, the house.
Yeah.
We don't move
Traffic.
beyond the superficial stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy because I think the thing is sometimes I have to acknowledge that, like we said, like for many of us as men, this is the way it's always been. We
Right,
grew up in a
right,
house this way. As a child, as a young man, as a man, I didn't get deep in talking to people about things. Like maybe my wife or my partner, I would open up and talk, like a close loved one or what have you. But learning that routine, making it feel comfortable, right? I think something we can do for each other, and become familiar with it. And it feels good. It feels good to be able to open up because if you're
right,
going through something and you're bottling it up, you obviously, if you are, you were able to talk to God and
right,
prayer and seek help and support. But God didn't put you on an island, right? You were surrounded by people, and the idea is to
right,
grow and build that community and fellowship. And the way to do that is to look out for each other and show that love to one another, like,
right,
and
right,
again, being that person.
right,
I always say it's be the lesson in action.
right,
So for me, it's being that lesson in action. Like I need this in my life, so I'm going to seek it out, and I'm going
right.
to model the kind of person that I wish I had in my life. And then those things come together.
Yeah. Now, you just mentioned something I want to pick up on. Do you find that men relate more to women than with other men?
Yeah, I think that we sometimes it's always not always the case, but for many women who are watching can relate that they feel like they're mothers to the men in their lives,
Right,
meaning that when something's going wrong, the men that they know, their friends, they feel that they can come to them and talk. But as men, it's like, do we lean on each other as men? I went through a hardship many years ago, and right away, like I knew many women in my professional and personal life who were, therapists and counselors and just nurturing, supportive women.
right,
But then I realized it's like I have all these men in my life too, and I reached out to them, and it deepened our relationship, and we're able to express and open up and talk. So I think that it's learning to. I think of it like going to the gym. Like you go to the gym to build your physical muscle. You can also go to the
right,
gym and build your emotional muscle. And part of that is thinking like you'd go to the gym with a buddy or a friend. We can emotionally go to have those conversations. It's like going with a buddy to the gym and you spot
right,
one another. It's like I'm here to help you through this and support you physically by holding the weights or whatever.
right,
Emotionally, it's that too. It's having a cup of coffee and talking about it, and opening up and doing that on purpose and recognizing that if I model it, it feels more comfortable, but it's also
right,
feeling comfortable to ask for help. So we need to do that for each other, right? And that's the creating permission where it's okay, and it's actually it's really cool when men are able to do that with each other because we can relate on a lot of
right,
levels. So it's very helpful, very helpful.
right, right. Well, we're almost at the close of our program, but I want to ask you this last question. What do we say to men who have been disillusioned with unhealthy and harmful ideas of manhood, as we've been talking about? How do they move beyond that? How do they start turning the corner and looking at healthy masculinity and moving beyond the myth that we talked about?
I think it's recognizing that you're not alone. That
Right,
men are also trying to find these answers as well, to reach out to the men, in not just at church, but just in general. There are obviously men of faith and a pastor and other people in the church you can reach out to. But it's just in general recognizing that men really want to help and support one another. That you're not alone in this journey, and recognizing that if I want to connect with people, it's building the bridges of connection. And we can do that for ourselves and for one another. And we can be that lesson in action.
Well, Jeff, it's been a pleasure having you. Could you just share with our guests how they can reach you if they need you for a speaking engagement, because you do a lot of talks and encouraging men? How can they get a hold of you?
I appreciate it. You can just go to higherunlearning.com or look me up on my social media. My name is Jeff Perera, and you can just find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. But Higher Unlearning is a way you can go, and you can reach out and contact me through that as well.
Well, Jeff, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, and keep up the good work. God bless you in all your endeavors.
Thank you. Same to you and to all those watching, and appreciate you all.
God bless you. Well, folks, that's all the time that we have for today. Remember, we want to remind you that if you're watching on YouTube, you need to hit the subscribe button. It will help us to publish the ministry and also provide notifications for you when there's a new video. Please continue to support this ministry with your prayers and financial support. If you desire to send us any financial support, you can actually send us an e-transfer at donate@cogop.ca. Of course, you can mail a check, or you're offering here at 5145 Tompkin Road, Mississauga, L4W1P1, and you can use text to give. The number is 289-769-9200. And as Jeff spoke about, men understanding our role and understanding that we're here to serve and to build each other up, I'd like to challenge us as men that we cultivate genuine friendships and relationships so that no one has to suffer in vain, and we can help each other. God bless you. We'll see you next time. Let's keep talking.
On the Let's Talk television program, we share solutions to real-life problems with real people, showing how faith guides everyone through the storms of life. We talk about tough issues that affect all generations. Our conversations help you learn, grow, and lead. Help us continue with this great work by partnering with us today. Call 905-625-1278, extension 233, or visit letstalkca.org. We look forward to your partnership with us to change lives. Let's Talk, revealing the heart of Christ through engaging media conversations.
Sometimes you walk through life alone, wondering if anyone understands what you are going through, hoping someone will listen and offer a word to make your day. The Church of God of Prophecy offers unconditional love and support, regardless of what you are going through. Visit cogop.ca for a location near you. The Church of God of Prophecy, developing authentic disciples of Christ.